This year, Final Fantasy XIV will celebrate its 10th anniversary, with its two most recent years seeing massive growth in its player population. However, with 10 years of content and systems, how can a new player possibly hope to begin their journey in 2023? These 10 tips I have for you are things that I wish I knew when I started 1700 hours ago. Let's get right into it. Number 1. Your race and job selections do not matter. In other popular MMOs, there's a lot of weight in the character creation process because of the possibility of gameplay advantages existing in the inherent traits of your race or class. In addition, if you dislike your class selection, you will typically create a new character to experience a different class fantasy. That isn't the case here. Your race selection is entirely cosmetic, and your job selection can not only be changed, you can actually play as every job on a singular character. There's no need to log out and switch. In addition, if you decide that you dislike the look of your character, you will receive one free file of Fantasia, which is typically bought on FF14's cash shop for $10 once you complete A Realm Reborn. This will allow you to change your character's race, gender, whatever you'd like. Number 2. Knowing your quest markers. When you open up your map in Final Fantasy XIV, you'll typically be bombarded by icons that might as well be hieroglyphs. This is normal. Here's a quick guide to understanding exactly what you're looking at. The most numerous quest icons you'll see will be these simple yellow icons. These are referred to as side quests, and they are entirely optional. As a matter of fact, the amount of experience you gain from the main story quest is so generous that you should altogether skip these side quests as you level for the first time. They'll typically reward you with experience, equipment, and on rare occasions, miscellaneous rewards like dances, minions, appearances, and more. Speaking of the main story quest, the symbol for that crucial through line is comparatively ornate. It appears like a quest marker, but eclipsing a meteor. And lastly, there are these blue quest markers. These exist specifically to denote gameplay features such as new jobs or professions, optional dungeons and raids, character customization, and more. Frankly, these are all worth doing as they will expand the scope of your experience with Final Fantasy XIV. Number 3. Why is combat so slow? During the early hours of the game, Final Fantasy XIV's combat is slow. This is both by design and temporary. You'll notice immediately that, unlike other MMOs, Final Fantasy XIV's global cooldown, or the time it takes to use a subsequent ability, is 2.5 seconds. This is unusually long for the genre, and it feels cumbersome when a majority of your abilities trigger the global cooldown. However, some of your abilities do not trigger the global cooldown, so you're encouraged to weave those abilities in the space between your primary abilities. As a matter of fact, you're meant to weave 2 of these off GCD abilities between each GCD. This will become quite demanding later in the game, so don't lose heart. The game's combat is engaging, challenging, and fast. For a quick point of reference, watch me beat the hell out of this dummy with my Dark Knight. Number 4. Where is the bank? Unlike other MMOs, Final Fantasy XIV does not have a traditional banking system which allows you to store excess items. Instead, you will make use of 3 available options. First, you'll use retainers. Retainers are personal assistants who you can hire, customize, dress, and assign to specific tasks like searching for treasure out in the world. They also serve as a means for personal storage. In order to unlock retainers, you must complete the level 17 main story quest called the Scions of the Seventh Dawn, at which point a blue quest marker will appear in your starting city of choice called an ill-conceived venture. Once you complete this quest, you will be given access to 2 retainers. Second, you'll use your Chocobo's saddlebag. Once you complete the level 20 main story quest called Lord of the Inferno, you will be allowed to select one of 3 grand companies which correspond with the 3 starting cities of Eorzea. These are factions of sorts. Once you've joined a grand company, you'll be able to accept a quest called My Little Chocobo. Completing this quest gives you a Chocobo mount, but you aren't done. At level 30, you'll be able to accept a quest called My Feisty Little Chocobo, which will allow you to summon your Chocobo as an ally in combat. Your Chocobo companion will also come with a saddlebag which can be accessed at any time and serves as an additional source of storage. Lastly, if you're well behaved, you may be able to talk your way into a free company or guild that will allow you to use their free company chest to store items to your heart's content. Number 5, your Chocobo is a free party member. As I mentioned a minute ago, your Chocobo can be summoned as a companion in combat. If you're playing a less durable or powerful job, then having an extra pair of talents to help you during your travels will make life easier. The Chocobo companion system is deeper than just having an automated pet. As your Chocobo gains experience, it'll earn skill points which you can spend on one of 3 Chocobo specializations. Quite simply, tank, healer, or damage. Initially, your Chocobo will only be able to earn 10 skill points, but that maximum can be surpassed later on, allowing you to fully utilize each of the specializations. If you're a new player, then I will recommend investing each of your Chocobo's skill points into the healer specialization. Few things can be considered more useful than a free pocket healer in a pinch. Number 6. Gear names are important. Up to level 50, combat gear is typically separated between two distinctions, Disciples of War or Disciples of Magic. From level 50 and beyond, there is a naming convention that denotes what job a piece of gear belongs to. These names serve as categories. Often, multiple jobs fit into a single category, meaning that one piece of gear can be used by multiple jobs. Let's go through each one. Fending gear belongs to all tank jobs. Healing gear belongs to all healing jobs. Maiming gear belongs to melee, specifically Dragoon and Reaper. Striking gear also belongs to melee, specifically Monk and Samurai. Scouting gear belongs to Ninja alone. Aiming gear belongs to ranged physical damage, including Bard, Dancer, and Machinist. Finally, casting gear belongs to ranged magical damage, including Red Mage, Black Mage, Blue Mage, and Summoner. While it isn't critical to memorize this naming convention immediately, it does give you a good idea of which jobs use overlapping gear. Number 7. Spiritbond and Materia extraction. One of the most often ignored features in Final Fantasy XIV is the Spiritbond system, which rewards you with materia for simply participating in activities while wearing equipment. Let me explain. Materia are gems that can be slotted into your equipment for additional stats. At the highest level, materia can fetch a pretty penny for the market board, so they're worth having and selling. You can actually create materia from your equipment through the Spiritbond system, which is visualized by this white bar beside my equipment icons. As I participate in combat while wearing my equipment, my spirit bond with that equipment increases until it reaches 100%. At that point, I can extract free materia completely free of charge to do with what I wish. Don't sleep on this system because most of the player base does. Number 8. What are Tomestones? As you progress through the game's story, you'll participate in dungeons, trials, and raids, all of which reward you with Tomestones. Let me explain how they work. At any given time, there are 3 unique Tomestone types in circulation, which function as a currency for players to acquire better gear. The first Tomestone, called Allegan Tomestones of Poetics, are perpetually acquirable and will be your primary concern as a new player. The remaining 2 are cycled out with each major patch. They become more important at the highest level, so don't worry about them now. Your Poetics are actually crucial for acquiring a set of powerful gear at levels 50, 60, 70, and 80. You can purchase this gear for your respective jobs at sundry Splendors vendors at each subsequent expansion's major city. Remember, you can only hold 2,000 Poetics at once, so feel free to buy gear for a job you may want to level in the future or for gear you can't yet equip. Number 9. Supply and provision missions. This feature is a part of your Grand Company, which, as I said before, is something of a soft faction selected after completing your level 30 main story quest. The primary function of supply and provision missions is to level gathering and crafting jobs. Each day, the list is updated with crafting and gathering materials that you can turn in for massive experience gains for each of your professions. However, it also functions as a means to acquire Grand Company seals, an important currency for funding your retainers, which we talked about a few minutes ago. During your travels, you might come across pieces of gear that you cannot equip, that are beneath your level, that aren't particularly appealing to look at, etc. Instead of selling them for gil, you can trade them to your Grand Company as part of your supply and provision missions in exchange for Grand Company seals. These seals will afford you the ventures necessary to pay your retainers to go out and find treasures for you in the world. This is an easy feature to overlook for many players, but it can serve as a wellspring of experience and currency if utilized daily. Finally, number 10, the hunting and challenge logs. There are 2 logs that are worth paying attention to while leveling through Final Fantasy XIV. First, there's the hunting log. If you hit H, then a window will appear which displays a list of monsters for each respective starting job in the game. There are 5 lists for each job, separated by 10 consecutive levels. All you need to know is that you need to slay these monsters, which will have a target beside their nameplate. As you complete the list, you'll receive a massive experience reward for that job. The hunting log will also serve as a reference point for finding appropriate leveling zones for alternative jobs before level 50. For example, I'm leveling a ninja, which is currently level 43. If I reference my hunting log, I'll find monsters relative to my level in Mordona and Eastern Lenosha. This log only needs to be completed once, unlike the next log in this tip. Our second log is called the challenge log, which can be unlocked after completing the level 15 main story quest called Call of the Sea. At this point, you'll be able to identify a blue quest marker in the city of Limsa Laminsa titled Rising to the Challenge. Completing this quest permanently unlocks the challenge log, which is a source of gil and experience for doing things that you likely would have done anyway. For example, running 3 random dungeons, offering player commendations, participating in open world events, slaying monsters with your Chocobo, crafting high quality materials, fishing, and more. The list expands as you discover new avenues of content in Final Fantasy XIV. Each week, the challenge log resets, allowing you to pursue these rewards over and over again. It offers players some small, short-term goals with generous rewards that guide their gameplay gameplay sessions. Here are some very quick honorable mentions. Your next main story quest or job quest will always be found on the top left-hand corner of your screen, assuming that you haven't moved it. This will always keep you on track for what to do next. Your job level is different from your main story quest level. Consult the journal to see the level of your main story quest. Under settings, character configuration, and item settings, you'll find two options for inventory interface, one for you and another for your retainer. Set each to expanded for a cleaner inventory experience. If you aren't sure whether or not you have an item, you can right-click the item, select search for item, and the game will inform you where else you might be storing a duplicate. Finally, you can sort your inventory and your armory by right-clicking on an item, then clicking sort. There. Nice and clean. I hope these tips can help you better understand Final Fantasy XIV if you're a new player. If you aren't a new player, then share this with a friend who might be getting started. Feel free to leave questions in the comments which I can answer in a future guide video. If you enjoyed the content, then feel free to leave a like. If you didn't, then leave a dislike so that I know where I need to improve. Thanks for watching.